Everybody, welcome to this very brief video. My name is James and I am a trainer with Bristol Mind. I've been a trainer of all things mental health and mental health awareness and literacy for the last 5 years or so. For 30 years before that, I worked in corporate HR. So I'm an HR practitioner by trade, and I've worked in a number of different national and international organisations, mainly at quite senior level, at head of or director level. And this is the first time I've ever done a video like this, so please bear with me. And what I'm here to share with you just for a few minutes are just some thoughts around leadership and management working from home. So remote leadership and management. I know there's just an absolute avalanche of information that's flying around the various social media channels at the moment. And it can be quite daunting and quite overwhelming, especially when we're trying to balance everything else that's going on in this very unsettling and uncertain world around us in this quite stressful time. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to share some thoughts around remote leadership, around two subjects really. One is around staying connected, and that's about leaders staying connected to their teams. And then the second part will be around staying motivated and what do we need to do to stay motivated ourselves. So I'm going to start with staying connected and just share a few points. The first one sounds quite fundamental, but it's a human response consideration, and that is about just having some trust in the people around us, and having some trust in the very fact that because we're not together, that doesn't mean to say that nobody is doing the best that they can. So trust that your team are working in working hard. Trust that they're doing the best they can right now. We've got to remember and acknowledge this is new for everybody. There's no rule book, there's no right, there's no wrong. We're all learning as we go along. So everybody's doing their best. What can be really helpful is just to invest some time into understanding your people's circumstances. What is their new working environment? What other considerations have they got in their life right now? Whether it be childcare, other care responsibilities. Everybody's world is different and our world is changing by the day. So have some trust. Secondly, might be a bit of a toughie, but we kind of have to acknowledge that mistakes are going to happen. You, as the leader, and our team made mistakes along the way on this journey. We have to accept that's just going to be part of this new way of working for all of us. And it should be okay. Nobody should be judging anybody else right now. What we should be doing is recognizing and applauding each other for doing what we are doing in these difficult circumstances. So acknowledge and recognize mistakes are going to happen. The next point, which I've seen an awful lot about on social media over the last couple of weeks, is about setting and respecting boundaries. It is really important. So, how would you be operating? How will you be working? And how clear are your team on that? How often will you and your team be working online? What are the key times of the day and the key activities that are non-negotiable and have to be achieved? When will messages be checked and replied to? When will emails be checked? What calls need to be made? What structure needs to be in place for your team so that there's a semblance of parameters and structure in day-to-day activities and routines? And yes, just to echo what millions of others are saying, it is important to have breaks, and it's important to build breaks around structure and routines in the boundaries that you set as the leader. So setting and respecting boundaries and sticking to them, absolutely critical. Understanding your people's working environment is also really critical. Just because everybody is working at home doesn't mean that employers, leaders, managers have to abdicate their responsibilities to duty of care. What does working from home look, feel, and sound like for your team? They're not going to be exactly the same. Is their workstation safe, for example? I've seen very clever examples of folk turning ironing boards into desks, but is that appropriate? Is it safe? Are there noisy distractions inside or outside the home stroke place of work? That might be other people, such as children. It might be that there are other people in the home that are also trying to work. It might be a noisy environment or a distractive environment. These are all important considerations to establish and understand reality. It's possible that adjustments may be needed, and if they do need to be needed around working patterns, around environment or timings, support the person in making them. Um, Consider mental well-being and welfare of yourself as well as your team. Invest a few minutes if you're not already clear to find out, so what internal care supports does my employer have? And when I say internal care supports, I could be referring to things like EAPs or employee assistance programs. Access to those, is everybody clear? What resources, websites, etc., are available to you? Again, without stating the obvious, the Mind website can be a great start point, but be clear about what is in place that can help you and your team, or you can signpost your team to. If you have an internal EAP, I would say you're in a very good place. Just understand what it can do for you and your team. The next point is not second, I think this is fifth or sixth, excuse me. But the next point, try not to drop routines. Keeping your routines and encouraging those around you to do the same is really important. Keep meetings in the diary and stick to them. Keep one-to-ones in the diary and maintain them, whether you're doing it over a phone call, WhatsApp, FaceTime, Zoom, whatever. That sense of connectivity is important. As human beings, we thrive on a sense of connectedness. So let's not forget that in these times when we need to come together, but we're also being told to stay apart. It's also particularly important to stay connected and not drop routines, just so that we can get a sense of, are people actually looking after themselves and do they need any support? Another behavioural characteristic that's really critical for me is be honest, be genuine, and be authentic with people. Let people know that they're doing a good job. It's not too difficult. Let them know that they can talk to you at any time, and make it okay for them to ask questions. Um, Over communicate this if necessary. Everybody's really uncertain right now. So being open, genuine, authentic, and be able to listen generously will be a true hallmark in these difficult times of a great manager, and an inspiring and enthusing one at that. And then finally, on the subject of staying connected, I just want to say look after yourself. Being a remote manager or leader is not easy. In fact, it's really, really difficult. And there's no right or wrong, there's no textbook approach. Anybody that tells you there is, they're not telling you the truth. This is completely new territory that all of us find ourselves in. Whatever you are doing, your team will be absolutely grateful to you for that. So recognize it's not easy, recognize it's challenging, and that as we move forward, things are going to change. There are going to be challenges and difficulties, mistakes will happen, but your team will be grateful that you're there and that you're doing your best. Look after your own mental health and well-being needs. As I've just mentioned, be clear on what support route supports are there available to you as well as your team. You can find some really good hints and tips on the Mind website, which is mind.org.uk. Your EAP, employment assessment provider, will be able to support if you have one, or employee assistance program, should I say, if you have one. But please do not underestimate the importance of what you need to do to look after you as well. Your team will also be very grateful for that. Just going to take us through a few pointers now around staying motivated, and I've literally just got 4 or 5 pointers, so that's it. But the first one I've got around staying motivated, whether that's yourself and for others, it's about maintaining a sense of social connection. Do it with your team during the working week, within your social networks as well. As human beings, we thrive, the majority of us thrive on feeling a sense of connectivity, whether that's to other people, to a sense of purpose. It's important for us to maintain that. Feeling a sense of connectedness is one of the fundamentals of the 5 ways to well-being. And in these difficult times, whilst feeling connected to other people may not be face to face for a while, technology has been a great enabler, as we're all finding out. It's enabling us to keep or maintain a sense of togetherness over time, space, and distance. And that's really important. It's what's going to get us through this. So, maintaining a sense of social connection, both in our work lives and our away from work lives, will be critical. Make requests from your leaders about updates or what's happening in the business and share them with your team. Whatever the news is within the organisation or the business, you and your team want to know what's happening. We always feel very uncertain when we feel that we're not being communicated with. So, if your organisation is not forthcoming with updates from senior leadership, ask for it. Your team will be very grateful, and as will you. Under communicating, as we know, breeds uncertainty. Open, transparent communication can be uplifting, it can be motivating. Even a simple thank you, acknowledgement of well done, of a job well done under difficult circumstances from senior leaders makes a huge difference. So seek it, ask for it, and share it. The next point, celebrate success. The very fact that you're still working and leading your team means that you and your team are being productive. It may seem very strange and different because all our conventional norms of what work is have changed. But the very fact that you're working remotely from home, online, you're being productive, you're helping others, and you're making a difference. And never lose sight of that. Recognize the wins and successes. There will always be some. It doesn't matter how small or insignificant or taken for granted they may once have been or seemed before. Right now, in this new world, they're all major successes. And finally, look for some positives anywhere you can find them. In the work arena, to give you one example, staying connected through technology. Right now, who on your team, whether you use Zoom, meetings, Google, or whatever interface, who on your team back at the end of February, beginning of March, would have known what they were, how to use them, or may have been intimidated by them. But right now, it's quite possible, if you're listening to this, that your teams are embracing that kind of new technology. So that in itself is a huge positive. And yes, there's the bigger picture stuff around, is this going to change the way we work forever and what's technology going to do? That's a question to answer for another day. Right now, we're all in this place of what do we need to do to get ourselves and each other through whilst we can stay motivated and productive. So always look for the positives. They're still there all around us. They just may have been something that we may have taken for granted before. And I guess in summary, all I'm going to say is, yeah, these are difficult, challenging, and worrying times. For the world around us, it will heal. Things will get better. It feels like it's going to take some time, and many people are worried, distressed, and frightened. Each day completed in this temporary new normal of ours ultimately is closer to the time when things will get better and we'll all be able to move forward. We don't know when it's going to be, but it will happen. But the fact is, there's hope. We know that there's hope. So with hope, we can always find reasons to be positive. So after 14 minutes or so, that's the end of my little clip. Hopefully, if you've stuck it out, thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Hopefully, you found my thoughts useful. The summary of my statements and my points will be available from Bristol Mind on some links that will be provided below the video. So if you do wish to avail yourself of them, please help yourself. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your patience, and stay safe. Cheers.